it's a mystical process. Someone comes in new, they watch this. It's like magic happening before them.
Yeah.
And then you take them and you put them in part of that process. Then suddenly, oh, well, okay, I understand how that happened. Oh, I can do that. And then it leads to the next thing, which leads to the next thing, and suddenly, they're all involved. They want that magic for themselves.
Well,
and
how do I nurture the people in? How do I grow my chapter? Anyone grow a chapter? How do you hold them? What's the retention? That's more important.
Usually it's a phone call. It's the first impression. That answer is the energy in your voice, the information you share. So I think it started when we had a litter of puppies and we offered them free classes for a year. And then it just has expanded. So we have puppy night Wednesdays, adult night Thursdays. And it really has become a cult. People, they get together, they make friends, they graduate from puppy to adult class, and then they graduate to hunting, So it's wonderful. But the first impression is either going to keep them or send them somewhere else.
Excited for this one. Some of my favorite people in the bird dog world, the Carters. We got Blaine Carter, Pattie Carter, Jason Carter. Welcome to the Eukanuba booth at Pheasant Fest.
Exciting.
I'm
It's
glad to have y'all here.
Having a great time.
It's always fun. I think this is the first one we're doing in person, right? We've had everybody's been on, right? But it's all been remote. So in person's always best. So what have y'all thought about Pheasant Fest so far? Y'all having fun?
We don't get to move very far. We see so many people we've known over the years, and we just stop and have conversations, and it's so much fun. We've learned stuff. We watch stuff. We've stayed in the NAVHDA booth for a few hours and, educated people, met friends that we see once a year. So this is the best part of Pheasant Fest is seeing people. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What's y'all's favorite part that y'all look forward to? Because y'all come to these pretty much every year, right?
Oh, yeah, but we get to talk to dog people for the most part. Right? You go down to the dog alley down there, and nobody's moving. No. Everybody's talking. You can't get through. Everybody's excited about the dogs and talking dogs, and it's just exciting to be around people like that.
I find it interesting. You come into this section of the event space, and then, even the conservation side. Then you go into the dog side with all of the dogs. That's the quietest section in the entire building is the one with all the dogs. You would think that they'd be barking or something.
They're not barking, but it's crowded.
It is crowded.
The best part this morning was when we came in, we did a TV show on the Flush a year and a half ago, and it was running. So we're like,
celebrities, everybody's madhouse.
It was like, oh gosh, that's us.
I mean, I did hear a story a minute ago about Blaine giving out autographs.
Yeah, I did to a child. He wanted one of those rulers or whatever they were handing out, and they said, "Where did you get it?" And I said, "Well, they're giving them out up front." And I said, two young children, and I said, "Well, here, you can have mine." And I said, "Do you want an autograph?" He says, "Yes." So I wrote Blaine from Maine.
Blaine from Maine. Well, I do have a topic that I want to start talking to you guys about. But first, I have an episode. By the time this comes out, it's already been out. But I recorded an episode with Pete Wade recently, and he was telling a story recently. And I got to ask you how often you use this little trick to get people involved in the bird dog world. He said that he came in and he said that he didn't know what he was doing, what he wanted to do, and he was just checking it out. And you said, well, you're a dog trainer for the day, and you said you're going to work our dog, right? And then he threw the bumper, and he thought that he was the best trainer in the world because Blaine's sitting there, that dog's never done that before ever. And then, somebody kind of let it slip to him a little bit later. That dog's been trained for however many years. But it's a good trick, something like that you recognize that somebody just needed a little bit of confidence or something to break the ice and get them involved. And there you go. Now, all of a sudden, years removed from that, he's a senior judge, his wife's a judge, his son's a judge. I mean,
my God, they went right through the roof with it. Yeah. That is an amazing start. Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of a, from a pro trainer or a kennel or from any dog advocate of whatever, I think it's more about getting the people believe in themselves and then gain something from it than it is, well, look at me, I'm a great dog trainer. Well, I'm not a great dog trainer, and I'm learning all day, and that's a neat thing for me being here today is boy, I'm telling you what, if you walk around this place and you haven't learned something or heard something new or got a tidbit or something, you have missed it.
You're just trying to close your ears off. But to me, it's like, yes, I absolutely 1,000% agree with you. But I think it's just when we're at these dog events and you see those wallflowers, the people that are maybe a little too timid, they don't know anybody, they're just curious. Figure out some way to get them involved. Whether it's just throwing a bumper for your trained dog, you could have gone over there and just started lecturing to them, preaching to them, and maybe it would have stuck with them. But by just giving them the bumper and kind of getting them in motion, fast forward decades later, that they have the family that they have involved in this.
It's a mystical process. Someone comes in new, they watch this. It's like magic happening before them.
Yeah.
And then you take them and you put them in part of that process. Then suddenly, oh, well, okay, I understand how that happened. Oh, I can do that. And then it leads to the next thing, which leads to the next thing. And suddenly, they're all involved. They want that magic for themselves. End up with a dog. You have the process for them. They head down that road and they gain some success and they're sold.
100%. It is magic, and then just getting their feet under them, doing a couple reps, they realize this is realistic. This
Did
is
we haul that
attainable.
wallflower person into the crowd
Yep.
and give them a dog to work? And like you said, probably a well-trained dog. And all of a sudden, they're part of the group. When we started, I mean, it was before we started. I don't think we were NAVHDA members. This gentleman showed us his short hair tracking a live pheasant. And, he let the pheasant go and then brought the dog up. And it's like unbelievable that this dog could smell those footprints across the grass. You don't think back how innocent people are when they start, and they're at the ground where we all were, but now they're like, we were going, hunting and training, ducks and all the game,
Yep.
traveling across the country hunting. But we all started with putting that dog on the ground and like learning.
It's something that we as a kennel, we really love when new people come in and they're excited about that and we introduce that process. I mean, it's really why we do what we do. We're just
And just jesting, when they come in, I go, you really want to do this?
Run
Are
right
you
now.
serious? Wait a minute. Look at these guys. Look what they're going through. Are you really want to do this?
it's a cult.
Yeah.
It's a cult.
Well, and what's really interesting is back to the first initial impression of it being magic. I would say that, I've been around you guys enough to know that around here, so many years of being involved in this, it really hasn't lost its magic, right?
Yeah.
Like, whether it is through helping new people, getting involved, or still seeing that dog, that young puppy pick up that track, it never stops being magic to me. I love seeing it at all different levels, whether it's a brand new puppy or that dog that, it does its first blind retrieve later on, like 3 years removed. And I think that that's what separates, and the common thread to what you talk about. We're talking dogs. We're dog people. And it's like you recognize the dog people when you start talking to them.
And then they take that magic to the woods.
Yeah.
And then they apply it, what they've done, all this work and all this passion to get their testing done, to get that dog trained.
Going to hunting.
But then they go right to the woods and they go hunting.
Well, it was funny. I passed the invitational 2 years ago, and the gentleman I ran with was John
Wickenhauser.
Wickenhauser. Sorry, John. Anyway,
North Dakota.
North Dakota. Him and I ran together in all the events all the way through, and I remember getting my score in passing, and I felt really good. I mean, I really did feel good. But John passed. And John and I looked at each other, and we went across the room, and that was such a magic moment.
Oh, man.
Holy shit.
We just started in. We can't be tearing up.
I have to be. It was such a wonderful moment, and then John told me about his quest with his dog and all that, and it's exactly what we're talking about right now, and it was really special.
We talk about that. What brings everybody to this space and dogs is kind of different and unique to everybody, but it's you recognize it when people see it, that passion, that the fire that it lights.
Oh yeah.
Every time they
Yeah.
see their dog point for the first time,
Yeah.
and it's just like, I used to do the natural ability field at the local chapter. For years, I was just running that, and people were like, don't you ever get bored of just doing the same exposure thing? And I'm like, no, because I'm getting to see not only the puppies hit that point for the first time, but the owner's response
Yeah.
to that puppy hitting point on time, and I don't ever get tired of doing that.
Right. You take enjoyment. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's what the connection is. The camaraderie in all of this is they see you taking that dog and getting just excited as they are. You're like, wow, yes,
Yeah.
that worked. That's awesome.
Yep.
Nice job. High five. And it's that connection to the dogs that really matters. Because they attach to you. They said, okay, I want that passion. I want. Where do we go next? And then they're just hooked.
And especially when you get them to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're doing
When
it
they
themselves
make
with
the
their dog.
connection.
Yes.
That's even more, that's even stronger.
And that's something that I do. This is what I want to talk to you guys about is, we hear all the time, whether it's hunting or in the dog training community, recruitment, right? That word gets thrown around a lot, and it can take on a whole bunch of different colors, and whether that's through the lens of a training day or whatnot, but it comes back to what you did for Pete years ago. Like that one little impression, that one little 5-minute thing that seed can just grow and branch out a bunch of different ways, because just think about how many people he had that moment with. And so like we talk about when somebody comes to me and they're asking, like, I'm just starting out, what do I go do? And we throw it around a lot. Go to your local NAVHDA training day, and not every chapter's built the same, not everyone's on the same level or tier, so to speak. But you guys, the ones that y'all have been running, and through social media, I get to live vicariously through what you guys are doing with y'all's chapter. I want to get y'all's take on how y'all construct that activity to where y'all have that sense of community. You have the buy-in. You don't have just two people running the entire thing. Everybody has skin in the game, and the value of that community all coming together.
Nick, I think what we have going for us as a chapter is the first impression. Usually it's a phone call. I mean, someone calls us on the phone, and that, it's the first impression, that answer is the energy in your voice, the information you share. So, and then we usually tell them, enlighten them about our first events and where to go, look on our website and that stuff. As far as the Yankee chapter, as far as our personal training days, we have at the house, we have, for years, I think it started when we had a litter of puppies and we offered them pre-classes for a year. And then it just has expanded. So we have puppy night Wednesdays, adult night Thursdays. And it really has become a cult. People, they get together, they make friends, they graduate from puppy to adult class, and then they graduate to hunting, So it's wonderful. But the first impression is either going to keep them or send them somewhere else.
So when they come into the chapter, they meet a whole slew of people, and these are the leaders of the chapter. Everybody's like, oh, who are you? You're new. What? And they want to connect. So when we meet as a whole group at the beginning, we all talk about different how the day's going to go.
Yep.
And then, but we utilize the chapter. Every member has we've taught these people how to train dogs, through the process. But now they're taking leadership roles.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's easy for 4 or 5 people just to do everything.
Yeah.
But they're going to burn out.
Yeah.
So we want to connect people to those folks, and then the chapter, they feel empowered, and these people they are knowledgeable. They're just not confident in their
Right.
knowledge, but
Right.
they're super knowledgeable. So we put them in a leadership position.
Yep.
Suddenly,
Yep.
you have all of these resources surrounding these new folks with all these people with great ideas and excited about helping. Because there's a role for them. Because you're in a chapter long enough, people are going to know what they're doing, but they're going to be in the shadows. They're going to be sitting back there, and you have to pull them to the front. And when you do, that really creates a community.
So
Yeah.
what we do, excuse me, just what we do is we have a sign-up list for our events, and our media guys puts out questions. How many dogs, how many birds? Are you experienced? Are you new? Do you want to volunteer? And I go through the list once we've got everybody established, and 2 or 3 days out from the event, I'll go through the list and I will call every single person or email every single person on that list. And I've already got a plan, so they know who's there. So, and I said, would you be willing to work with Jason in the natural ability field in the morning? Then you can take the afternoon off and train your own dog. and then Jason gets to meet a couple new people, educate those newbies, and then, you know, they're not standing around. So I have nobody when we get to the events. It's like everybody comes up to you and says, "What can I do to help? What can I do to help?" Well, the list is there. They already know, So it works. It's working in our chapter because people have a job and they want a job, and they learn from that job. So that's sorry. You can go now.
Okay. I can't.
You have permission. Go ahead.
I want everyone to know that's a first. To take it back even further, one of the things that come up, for years we've been putting on these training clinics. We've been doing it. And I think one of the best things that we did, we started a committee. And in the committee, we put people responsible for different, there's always different areas. I mean, if you break down, if your goal is to pass a natural ability test or a utility test, you're going to have to achieve some goals, and it's easy to structure it, but you need personnel to man and get all these blocks going, or you're going to have the same people doing the same thing going. And so when I started the committee, I didn't invite Jason, but no, I didn't, because he's going to come with a process. I wanted people that were outside the process.
New ideas.
I want new ideas.
Fresh
I want
blood.
them. How can we make How can we make this better? It might be a small idea, or it might be a real structured idea, and almost to a point, we've got people that have said, "No, I want to get this all structured. I want to get." I said, "Go ahead, do it." I said, "We'll do that. That's great. But right now, let's grow where we are." And there's turnover in it as well. But what we don't have is the same guys teaching the same thing, the same way, right or wrong.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? There's new insight in there. There's and it's so much energy.
It's new energy.
Yeah.
It's new
great
energy.
You because you talk to them 3 days in advance. They're studying up. They're taking notes. They want to give you everything. So when we go in and you float from station to station and you refine what they're doing. Hey, you can do it this way a little bit better. And so there's some oversight there, which is helpful and empowering for those that are leading. So
we don't let them flounder.
No, don't.
You can give them a little push, and if not, wait a minute, we may need to back up a little bit here, buddy, going a little too fast, or something. But it's their idea. Mm-hmm. So what happens is, instead of your board being 5 people, all of a sudden your board becomes 25 people. And you said, well, how do I nurture the people in? How do I grow my chapter? I think anyone grow a chapter. How do you hold them?
Yeah.
What's the retention? That's more important.
Well, I mean, when we talk about people getting burnout, that implies that there was a level of enthusiasm, curiosity, thirst that is no longer there, right? Like the flame has burned out. And that, to me, what you just said is paramount. Like that is the key to where you have to bring in fresh blood and new ideas. And more importantly, you have to act on said ideas and be open to new things, because it's very easy to get bogged down. And I've always done it this way. It's worked before. I don't need to change anything. And then, when you get in that mindset, it is so easy to project how you want to do things on everybody else. But then you're holding everybody else down, because you're not allowing, to your point, pushing them out front to where they can kind of grow and have that skin in the game. And
you have to relinquish
Yes.
some control over that, and it may not be exactly the way you would do it, but you can help them and teach them and mold them in a way where they're confident in what they're doing and get it to where you need it to be. But you have to kind of suck it up a little bit and kind of just say, okay, this is your baby, go.
Yeah.
You can do this.
And I think, Blaine, you're a perfect person for me to ask this question to you. So, coming from somebody, I've been in that position to where I've been the fresh blood. I've been the younger guy coming in with all the fresh ideas and energy. Let's get it. Let's go after it. When you do have the more experienced people, shall we call them, in the chapter, that are reluctant, or maybe they even think they're being receptive, but they really aren't. What's the best way somebody new can go about addressing that concern within the chapter without it just becoming a pissing match?
Oh, you mean do head-on stuff?
Yeah, we have to invoke some change in the chapter, and get some fresh energy in it. But if the higher
Like
ups,
the person, he isn't gonna move. He isn't gonna.
right?
He's been in there for so long and he's hardcore. That's a tough egg. It's
I love the story. Hold on just a second. Nancy Annisfield and I were helping this gentleman train steadiness in his dog. So we took him to the field. We were having a Vermont clinic, and she and I went to the field, and he's carrying this pitchfork with him and a long rope. And so the dog goes on point, beautiful point. It was a griffon, beautiful point, sticks the pitchfork in the ground. The rope's, fairly tight. And then we flush the bird. The bird dog lunges. The pitchfork probably goes off with the dog. And so I looked at him. I said, "How's that working for you?" And so it was fun. We had a great time with him, but he came with his own way.
Yeah.
So you have to realize people are set in their ways, but we're here to help you and educate you. So that was a great example of it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And that makes it totally digestible if you believe that, oh, you got a process, show me. I mean, as many years as you've been in it or I've been in it.
Don't make fun of him.
Show me something I don't know. Show me something I want to learn too.
Right.
Well, great. And if they stick on that and they run with that and that's the way they want to do it, I don't live with the dog.
So Mike,
that's what they want to do.
Mike needs to sell pitchforks.
Well, the market just went up.
It's funny. I mean, just before we hopped on here, and then I do want Blaine's thoughts on this question. But Blaine made an observation to where he's looking at these little corunda beds and cots laying around here, and he's like, Nick, like years ago, decades ago, we started doing these place boards back when e-collars were first coming up and Tritronics and the 3 levels and adjustable and all that stuff. And he's like, I looked at who was it that you looked at?
Dobbs. It was Jim and Phyllis Dobbs. They were working for Tritronics. I mean, Garmin wasn't, none of those people were on board. It was a Tritronic prior, and it was the electric collar. You fried dogs. They didn't have intensity changes or any of that stuff. So they were now changing around and desensorizing the electric collar to an e-collar, right? Well, they did the 3 conditionings with place boards. So I looked at Jim. I said, Jim, remember, it was at the house. I said, Jim, I think we can make money off this. He says, how long do you think it would take 2 people? Especially you from Maine, figure that a piece of plywood and 2x4s, you could get one. Right?
Yeah.
So I said, you're right. It wouldn't work. Now look at it. They're doing it.
They're everywhere. But that goes back to the pitchfork. Don't be so closed off to new ideas. Like, at least entertain it for a while. Sure. That doesn't mean fall for everything and every gimmick out there. But there is a way to be open and receptive. And so, Blaine, back to my question, you've been around this game for so long, and you've been around the chapters and these old timers for so long. When somebody new comes in and maybe those experienced guys, the head honchos, aren't really receptive of new ideas, how do we go about respectfully changing that, getting the wheels in motion? Because it's easier to just get frustrated and be like, fine, we'll leave. And in my experience, that's kind of what happens. Is the younger guys like, I thought you said you wanted me to be involved. I guess not. I'm just going to go elsewhere or go do it on my own.
Well, I think there's a couple of questions that got to be asked, and if they can't be answered, then maybe you need to leave, in a sense. One is, do you want to grow? What do you want to accomplish with your chapter? And how are you going to get there? If you look at the prime rules for dog training, right? Consistency, insistent, and you're going to get where you want to go, right? As long as you stay in line. Well, if somebody's got something that's a little bit distant, but it's the consistency and insistence in it is the proper ingredient. Well, come on, guys, and it makes it easier for what you do. You've been going. Well, look at force train retrieving. We didn't even look at force train retrieving until they were a year or better. Whoever thought, if someone said we're going to start at 7, 8 weeks, start in a hold or usually get into their mouth or do anything? No, my God, you might as well. That's a sacrilegious lamb, for a year conduit. And now at 5 months, we're finishing our force train retrieve. And now have desensorized the force train retrieving to the point where the only force we really need is at the pickup point. Because we've laid out so much groundwork for all the other stuff, which we never did, because in force train retrieving, uh, they didn't know how to hold. So we were doing hold, force, go forward, force, bend down, chase down, whatever, and it took us months, right? You think about the package, and I'm not saying I'm a great dog trainer, and I'm far from it because I made probably every mistake anybody should make.
I would say that probably makes you a better dog trainer than most because
I
you
need
have
to
made
make
the
a few
mistakes.
to get that bad, to get some good out of it. Anyway.
I let him know when he makes those mistakes.
There you go.
Yeah.
Pattie's the dog trainer here.
And to answer your question, I've seen you go into a lot of different clinics, and then you identify the resources in the room. You're like, hey, look at this guy. This guy's been to the Invitational. The guy sitting in the back, kind of quietly. All that knowledge, you pull him to the forefront.
Yeah, I do.
You know,
that
and
a
you
lot.
identify like, okay, look at this chapter. This chapter has all kinds of strengths, and this is the knowledge sitting in the room. You know, and by grabbing those folks
Yeah.
and saying, hey, you can do this. You know, you instill that confidence to kind of step up, and those folks kind of come to the front, and you know, you create a sense of community wherever you are. It doesn't matter
Right.
what room you're
Yeah,
in.
that's
You know,
Blaine,
everybody's
right?
just automatically friends with you. You know, and that is how chapters evolve. That's how people come to the forefront and feel comfortable. It's like when the tailgate drops, the end of a clinic.
And
Yeah.
that's exactly it. And that's where he's talking. If they want to grow the chapter, then it's going to grow. If these guys aren't going to move or aren't going to do anything in that department, you're going to tough hole. It's
Yeah.
going to be a tough hole. But I think everybody. I don't care who they are. I think anybody that really cares about. I don't care what group you're with. They want that group to do well. They're there because they want it to do well. You don't want to steal that from them, but what you do want to do is promote. How are we going to make it? I need you to help me make it better. Would you make me better? How are you going to do this? Because I'm doing this right now and it's not working for me. So how am I going to get better? And I think when that comes to the process and people belly up to the bar in a sense and do that, the chapters or the dog group or the field trial group, I don't care what kind of group it is, they're going to get better and that thing will take off.
Include the mothers and the children and the fathers and the family
Yep,
and the
yep.
grandparents, whoever. They all get involved in the process. Bring everybody. We're all accepting of anyone that walks in. You know,
Right.
and that's super important.
And I think that, the atmosphere at our chapter is very friendly, and I think NAVHDA in general we've made wonderful friendships throughout. And I think that makes, you're a little nervous, you're there for the first time, you've heard all these amazing things and about, NAVHDA and everything, but you're coming, just like walking into this room. And we take that away from people. We allow them to feel nervous, but we make them more comfortable and put your dog away and go
Yeah.
join this group, this group.
But
And
even
you can learn from that. And then, get your dog out and socialize it. And
yeah.
we do a lot of drills to introduce dogs.
But on the front end of the deal, we've got a gentleman that sits out there, all these newbies that come in. He says, "Who are you?
Yeah.
What's your name? What level are you at? Oh my God, you're at this level. Well, here's the sign up." And they'll take them over the sign up and say, "Now you need to. Here's the guys I want you to get in touch with. This is where I need you to go." You already broke the ice.
That right there.
He
and
is invaluable.
it falls into what you're talking about, first impressions. I mean, even at the phone call, my wife is always reminding me, people can hear a smile. She's a salesperson and a people person, but people, and it's true, right? The first impression. But I've had the privilege of going around in different organizations, different groups, different chapters, and everybody's talking about the same thing. How do we get more people involved? How do we get younger people involved? And it's always the same answer. It's like most places I go to, I'm used to it. It's hard to scare me off or make me uncomfortable because I've been in so many random environments. But it still surprises me every time when I go somewhere new and I have no idea who I'm meeting or what I'm really doing. It takes 3, 4, 5 people to get to somebody that will take the time to do that. And what you're talking about, post up that sentry at the gate,
Yeah.
to where they are met with a welcoming, hey, I can't show you around, but you know what? Jason over there, he can show you around.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
And it's
Because
just,
otherwise, it's just going to go away,
yeah, and it's
and
just
you've
like,
lost it.
and so many people, they think that they're being welcoming or something because they're not being, they're not saying get away from me, but you're also not being inviting either, right? Like there's a difference between being indifferent and being inviting.
Yep.
And it is a fine line because you can't stop and drop everything you're doing for
Correct.
everybody, but that's where the different roles, the different tasks, the different people,
And
and the skill levels.
and if you think about the basics, when they come in, I'm going to run to the field and I'm going to get that young dog to point.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe he hasn't ever seen a bird. Yeah. Why don't you let him chase one? Or why don't you let him catch one? Why don't you let him do it? You don't. There's no developmental piece before they hit that field, and it could be vice versa. I got a hunting dog. My dog is better than anything you've ever seen in your life, and he is too. That before we got to the first shot, he was gone, and we have still haven't seen him yet. But so we get him back and said, well, maybe we need to do a little prep here. There's some development here. Good or bad. What do you think? This is where I think I'm going to go. The magic in any of those instructional pieces to me is the ability for the handler to say, well, what do you think about if we go this direction? What's your input in it? And then they have to and make them feedback to you. Not make them, but give them comfort.
Instead of
Comfortable
preaching
enough.
them, you're including them.
I'm
Right.
including them in.
Right.
This is what I saw. This is where I think my direction should be, and these are what I think he'll do as I go through those steps. These are the reactions. I think we're going to get a negative reaction here, and I think we're going to have to pressure the situation, and this is what I think we should do for that pressure. That kind of learning is valuable.
You're training people.
That's what I'm trying to say.
You're going to these clinics with the mindset that we're training people. They can train their dogs. We're gonna expose holes
Yes,
during the clinic,
exactly,
but we're
exactly.
focused on training people.
Right.
So
And that takes a lot of time pressure off the people that are putting on a clinic. Is like Jason said, we're not training your dog. That's your job. We're helping you learn where your holes are, and you go home and do your homework, and then come back, and the next clinic will get easier, and we'll show you some more holes. And
You touched a bone on for a lot of people, or a nerve. You touch a nerve. It's how many times do you hear people complain across the country of like people show up and like they just want us to train their dogs.
Yeah.
And we train their dogs and then they leave. What y'all are saying is, well, train the person instead of the dog. Don't give them what they want. If your issue is that people come and take advantage of your time and your resources to where they just want free dog training, don't train their dog. Train them. Just be like, listen to me, or let's have a conversation. Let's include them in the process instead of just going to throw 3 birds out in the field and we're going to go see what happens. And it's like, just take the time to figure out what that person actually needs to hear rather than what that dog needs to do in the next step to an NA test or a utility test.
think about all of the situations that are going to happen during the day. You go in the field, you got 20 minutes with a trainer. You go work or whatever.
10.
10 minutes. I get yelled at for
10.
staying with them too long.
All right.
Oh my God, it's his.
I would fall. in the
It's like
same boat.
everyone's a project I want to solve.
Yeah.
And he does try to solve that.
And his sister is out there going,
Time to go. Time to go.
You and I never need to train in the field together, because
Yeah,
I'm right there with you.
But that person's done with that project and off they go. Put that dog away.
Yeah.
You can help the chapter. You can go walk the utility field. It's hard to know where you're heading unless you know where you're driving to. So go to, if you're working NA, go to UT. See what you're going to need to accomplish, and then that will help steer what you're doing earlier on.
Yeah.
There's so much. Every problem that someone has, there's a trainer there giving them a solution. Well, you may run into that. That's just, oh, great. That's how you handle it? That's a tool in my toolbox. Oh, that's a tool in my toolbox. When you see it, you know it, you can read it, and you can apply those tools when they need to. If it's the first time you saw it, well, there's not much you can do.
So what we have after at our clinics is we have the remedial stations.
Ah,
So when
Yeah.
the guy has the hole exposed, which the dog won't retrieve, the dog won't release the bird, the dog won't go get the bird, we have the remedial station. He goes down and works on retrieving and someone down there to help him do that. If you have a steadiness problem, we have, we do some stop to flushes, stops to shots,
All impulse stuff,
to introduce that stuff.
impulse development stuff.
Yeah.
Where
Yep.
where it's simplified, it's visual, bring out the urge, and then put the corrective tools in places. Then the handler's got the corrective tool. The dog's getting an understanding about the impulse urges and how to change that. And now he's changed it. Let's put it to work in an actual situation.
I love that. You guys aren't going out there and just being like, all right, we're gonna do a setup, and then when it fails, tell them what to do, and then it's on to the next one. They actually have a place to go to where you're driving down the road, you hit the roadblock, we have to do a detour. You're not just saying like, there's no map or GPS. Like, no, go over here. We're gonna help find the route through this because
And we usually, excuse me, Nick, but we usually have a gunner or a trainer in the field with that handler. And as we plant the birds for the next bird dog, gunner or handler is walking, gunner or trainer is walking out of the field with the handler and talking in his ear as he goes and tells him where to go next.
I love that because so many times, so many people be like, "Yeah, okay, like I know I have a problem with this. What do I do though? What are some of the drills? Like, what should I be looking for? What's the
Right.
process
Sure.
here?"
Yep.
And the drills, I find like so many people complain about. Well, they came to the training day, but they didn't work on anything from this training day to that training day. Well, then you go talk to them, and they're like, "Well, I don't know how to simulate bird planting in the field." Nobody took the time to explain to them. Like, you can be working this in this drill. Like, if it's steadiness, you can just go do some yard work with a check cord or whichever process. Stop to flush. Like, you can simulate that with bumpers. You can get creative and do some of this stuff. But so many people are just like, well, yeah, I
They want
know.
to be waited upon.
Yeah, I know my dog has a
Right.
retrieving problem, but I don't know force fetch, and I can't wait till the force fetch seminar come October or whenever.
And they
right?
can't scaffold their training. So, like, I mean, a dog that's going to run wild, we have an empty field that the dog can go run wild in. If they can't handle that obedience and that cooperation in that field, well, you got to stay in that field. You got to kind of take that edge off, get the dog, mind right before you go into any steadiness or you go into meeting a bird, try to get some pointing.
Well, the connection between most all these advanced portion is obedience. The individual being able not only to talk to the dog, but be able to manage that dog at his most excited moment.
Right.
And that's a tough haul, because do I go over the line? I put too much pressure on the e-collar. I put too much pressure on the long lead or whatever I'm doing. And then in realistic value, here you've got this whole ground of dogs sitting out here, and you can create a communication skill. Nothing more than them moving all around each other out there because, geez, I want to go over here and visit with so and so. No, leave it. Come with me. Well, what's happening out there in the field when you want to delay chase all the time? Leave it. Come to me. Come with me. Come do it. These are all little small things, and I bet you 90% of it they're doing it at home all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, we hear denials like that gets thrown around with retrieves a lot. I mean, that's what we're talking about. If the dog really wants to go left, go right. Like, you're just denying the dog what it wants to do to get the cooperation eventually built into it. And to your point, Blaine, like, what you guys do on y'all's big training day, the drills, getting everybody out with their dogs all out at one time, and in the covered shop, and then outside in the field. Like, that's what I like about y'all's training days is y'all start off with group
Yep.
training. You guys aren't just be like, all right, who's up first?
Yeah,
Who's
no.
planting birds? Like,
No.
no, everybody gets involved. All the dogs get involved.
That's where my training group creates these buffers, because 90% of the time they're going to have to sit around before their turn to the field or their turn to go somewhere. Why waste the time? I mean, you can do simple little obedience skills, things like that. They're containment moments before they get their moment in the field where they need to do. And then you're doing something that's aligning you with that work you're about to do in the field
It's
or
a snow.
tracking or wherever.
It's a snowball effect.
Yeah.
If you don't have the obedience, you don't have the cooperation before you hit the field, in these little drills, we're gaining that. You're getting the focus, you're getting the eye contact, you're making yourself matter. And you brought up a great word, was impulse control. You get that dog connected and the mind right, then you can achieve what you want. The learning's there, the mind's ready
Exactly.
to absorb information. If you just bring an exuberant dog out in the field and it's losing its mind, it really can't take in information. You can do whatever you want. You can make it a negative experience for them, but they're just not ready for learning.
Right.
We have been fortunate to get to the point, and really have done it well too. And I like to take credit for it, but I can't. It's a whole bunch of people that put their brains together and put this thing together. And we do 70, 80 dogs in a training day, and we're having our tailgate by 4:30 in the afternoon.
And they're all worked.
And they all
yeah,
work.
and everybody's
to
happy.
the point where the dogs are tired before they
Very
get.
seldom do we have a complaint. Very seldom. Everybody usually gets.
Well, you can't make everybody happy.
No, you
all
can't.
the
You
time,
can't. But if we do have a
but-
complaint, I call them up and address it. And usually it is they're embarrassed that they lost it, and
Right.
they're very, very.
It's funny how that works.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. So it's a good thing.
But that is a very good thing to highlight because it's like so many training days. I've been there from sun up to sundown, and you really stop and think about it, and it's like, all right, we only had like 9 or 10 utility dogs in the field, 7 or 8 natural. But why were we here till the sun went down, right? And it's just disorganization. You don't have a plan, and
The other thing was, and I heard you mention it before, is you're very giving with your time.
You're
You're leaving the dogs at home or you're leaving them in the truck and you're doing the work all day long. Well, we stopped doing that. That's not fair to you.
Yeah.
And why would you want to keep coming if you don't get to work your dogs? So by engaging all these members, suddenly now you have the opportunity, okay, workers go first. They're going to hit the field. They're going to get what they want done. If they need some remedial work, they may do some gunning, but then they're coming back, bringing out their dogs because we have a big enough resource to
And
do
that's
that.
why when Pattie says, well, we ask for volunteers at the beginning because if you're a worker, you go first. Everyone volunteers.
Yeah.
Every
you incentivize
everybody is a volunteer.
them. You have to incentivize them to get involved, and then back to Jason's point, they get involved, they get thrown out in the open like that, and then they're like, oh, you know what? The field didn't burn down. Right? Like I did help some people.
Right.
And they get that fulfillment and that reward.
Yeah.
Like,
Right. But you get to train your dog.
right.
Because you'll burn out. You'll
Oh,
get
yeah.
tired of it. You'll get frustrated. And that's where that negativity starts sliding in and people start getting frustrated and angry because they haven't had they worked their tail off. 90 degrees days. We had guys doing running pheasants and absolutely almost passing out. We had to say, no, you need to go back to the truck. You need to be done. And
Oh, yeah, Jimmy.
Yeah,
Buck
we-
killed himself.
we
Oh,
were
my God,
killing
that-
our workers. It was like,
Oh,
this
God,
isn't
I
right.
was
We got to do
killed
something
them.
different.
And Jason said that, Mom. We have to come up with a plan because we're killing Jimmy.
killing Jimmy. Poor Jimmy.
He
Poor
loves
Jimmy.
to work, but we were killing Jimmy.
Yeah.
Well, what about as a handler? We talk about you have to be the advocate for your dog, right? You have to advocate for your dog and as well as your training method because not everybody's going to show up and want to train the way that everybody's helping them. Another thing that burns people out, to what your point, like if me not being able to work my own dogs is going to burn me out. Another common thing that I see a lot of people getting frustrated with is they go out there, somebody will come up to them and say, "What's your plan? What do you want to do out here?" They'll illustrate their plan. Hopefully they have a plan. Sometimes they don't, but usually in this scenario they do. Then they go out and the person helping them or persons helping them, it becomes about them, and it's no longer the owner's plan, it's their plan. And the owners are sitting there, and if they're brand new, they may not be comfortable telling a Blaine Carter, like, nope, I want to train my dog this way. And it's good intentions from the person trying to help them, but a lot of people are uncomfortable speaking up, and they would just assume, let's just grit my teeth through this and leave and not come back.
So this is why we can produce so many people, boom, 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 through the field because somebody, a trainer, is talking to the guy before he goes to the field. So they know what to expect when they go to the field. And I sometimes will tell or ask the, the handler, would you like me to work your collar? Because your timing would be much better if I am watching your dog versus you trying to grab your collar when the dog is halfway out to the bird that flushed. So some don't want me to, and that's fine, but I usually go along just to observe so I can say what I saw that happened. And it's great. I mean, most people say,
Yeah,
hey,
but you do more than
please take
that.
it.
You
Right.
do more than that. You ask them if they're using their collar, what level are
Yep,
they?
yep,
Are you
yep.
sure this level is where you want? What if we have to go higher? What is the level? Well, where am I going? What I am, and then you might go higher. You see the attitude, and they're not in the ballpark or whatever. And you if you're running the call, you do it. You're
We
not
might
gonna.
go lower.
You may go lower.
Right,
You
right.
may give them one. You may give them one, and then a lot of people pre-warn with a collar. I'm not going to go after the urge or the impulse. I'm going to warn them that I'm in control. Okay, if you want to do it for your, I would want them for my obedience skill. I wouldn't want them for the attitude that I'm developing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So so you discuss it. You say, this is what I'm looking at. Hey, dog training isn't. If you, the only thing I bothers me about dog training, dog trainers too, is that they cookie cut. Well, this is my process. I'm going to go with the process. I go,
Hell or high water. That's
hell
the
or
way
high
they're
water.
doing it.
This is where I'm going to go. Well, no, Rover here is saying high water isn't where I got to be at.
No, but you'll let them bloody their knuckles a little bit.
I
You know,
do.
sometimes if they're really rigid about it, yeah,
Yeah.
yep. And then you would say,
How's it working?
"How's it
for
How's
working
you?
that
for
work
you?"
for you?
How's that pitch work?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. So, we've covered a number of ways to help get people included, feel comfortable right out of the gate. But let's talk a little logistics, right?
Yeah.
You had the group training, and besides the volunteers figuring out the working order, do you guys have any other structures that you guys apply to figure out in what order everybody's going to? Do y'all have any other rules, like if you're running next, you're planting birds before you, stuff like that you guys have really figured out helps
For a short
make it
period of time, we
efficient?
did a deck of cards, and that seemed to work as you showed up. Instead of me trying to keep track of who showed up first because it was first come first serve, and they pre-ordered their two chucker. That's all they're allowed to have. So I would start dealing out cards, and the lowest number got to the priority. Sometimes, and if you missed your slot, you still would show up, and they were on number 10. But if you had a 4, you could slide in there. But we started once everybody started volunteering and everybody's working and everybody's got a job. There's no standing around. When you show up, you may wait a few dogs, but then you get in, and or it's gonna be a while. You just go work on another station. So, it's good. I mean, the two bird thing is magic because and there's no such thing as getting a third bird if you
But you
want to
can
work on a
reuse the
problem.
birds. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, you can go work a bird if it's not working out. Just get out of there, go do a different bird until the situation's correct. You know, they
Yeah.
may get a few trials at
Yep.
each of those
Yep.
two birds.
So
Yeah.
we're talking mostly utility, but your
Yeah.
NA station that you work at, you can talk about it. You have a you have a birdless field and a bird field.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, I mean, we have them run the empty field just to see that the dog's connected to the handler because it doesn't make sense for them.
Handle 'em, yeah.
And they get some handling in and they give some commands, make sure the dog is really connected. But what's interesting is they go with a trainer and they're talking about NAVHDA, NA testing. They're answering questions. The handler has an opportunity to ask all the questions, and then they come to me and then it's more of a refined approach. So they come, okay, where are they with their woes? Where are they with their steadiness? Where are they? I mean, with their commands and their cooperation? Is the dog connected to the handler?
Yep.
Yep. The handler says this and that, and they kind of figure all that out for me. So when I hit the field, I have a little more information about the dog and about the situation, and then we chat and we do it.
Yeah.
What was it? And we had sometimes the kids show up. If you get kids that are really outdoors geared, they, we put them in bird play. I remember with what's her name,
Natalie?
and Natalie. Uh, I taught her how to do the two bird shuffle. what I was doing is punch a hole in the grass, make a little loop, spin the bird, and then go. So I made a little dance there. And she dropped the bird. So she was at this test planting birds. She was planting birds at a test. And all of a sudden, we see Natalie out in the field doing the two-disc shuffle, drop the birds, going down to the test.
That's awesome.
Did we fire her that day?
Yeah,
No.
no, we didn't. She was getting close.
Her dancing skills wasn't up to par for
Yeah,
Blaine.
yeah.
He was out there having to do the
Right,
shuffle.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, youth involvement's big.
yeah.
And even people that are really tight geared, sometimes I was doing a clinic down in Kentucky, and we were doing fourth train retrieve. One night, wouldn't you know, I hit the perfect dog. I mean, it went.
You found it? You found the perfect dog?
An absolutely perfect dog for fourth train retrieving. I don't think it took me 13 minutes to get it all the way to pickup.
Oh, wow.
All the way from the beginning ear prints, everything was in place. The dog went right in it. So I looked at this person that had been to the invitations, been training dogs forever, and I go, right there. But the realism was she looked at it. I mean, because she's old school, right? So I was pulling people all the time in it. So I happened to do that. So I had a bunch of little small dogs in the same, all over the place. I said, here, you're going to take, we got 2 training tables. I said, I'm going to take a split over here. I need you to help me over here. You take these dogs, I'll take these dogs, and let's see where we can go with them. Okay? Next minute I know, she's out there going, she looks over at me and goes,
Right back at you.
but she didn't want to buy into it. But by the end of the time that it was working, Mother Nature or God, she gave me the big blessing or whatever. It just hit right for it, but it put her over the hump. So she changed her philosophies a lot, and just through the development piece of those dogs. So even those tough nuts, they can be a help.
And I'm sure you've seen it, that engineering mindset, the analytical mindset. Like, you got to go from A to B to C. Well, it's great if it works for that dog.
Yeah,
But when it
always
doesn't,
work.
then they're confused.
Yeah.
You know? And reading dogs, which got you through the process so quickly, was you saw what the dog was, you brought the positive, you worked it through where the dog just was connecting to you so quickly. And that's how, those things happen. So you got her getting out of that cookie cutter and said, hey, look, what is your dog telling you?
Instead of banging that wall so high, right, till they go all the way to, it's almost like you beat them down, and then you have to take this long break and then go back to it. Where if you just said, hey, wait a minute, I am pushing that button harder and harder and harder. Wait a minute. And he's already told me he didn't like it. Back off.
Yeah.
You're really good at balancing the praise in there. Because,
Back
I
off.
mean, some people forget that end of it. The dog's got to know when he did it right.
Yeah.
Anything, just the thinking about doing it right, that dog has to be rewarded for that.
You've been doing that to me for years.
That's right.
It's funny, I've recorded a number of episodes here yesterday and today, and I swear I don't know how I've been doing this podcast for 4.5 years because we just keep repeating the same stuff.
Oh, yeah,
right?
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, balance, getting to know your dog, go at the pace of your dog, be intuitive, reward the thought process, make them think, all this stuff. We just keep repeating the same thing.
People don't know how to reward a dog.
Yep.
I mean,
Well, go in. Let's tell them.
if the dog does not get excited and have a mood change, you haven't praised him. You have
Interesting.
not. Just going, I really like you, bud. That was good.
So that brings up a good question, though. So how do we reward the dog in the middle of it, saying, yes, that right there, keep going, but we don't have it go off the tracks because you can over reward that dog and all of a sudden your training session's done.
You have just now entered into the world how to train a trainer. You did, because you have to teach him. There's a balance. There's a balance of excitement in your good dog. If it goes too high, you'll see it all the time. When they praise correctly, it's in the exercise. No, teaching dogs to accept praise, to learn, it means continuation.
Mm-hmm.
That's
and
a
we
training
do
process.
a bad job at being able to teach them to continue while they're in a positive process. And it's that continuation that's so important.
Yep.
But we
I-
actually train that positive, when you're touching your dog and it goes out, no, 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 hey, good dog. And you train it. It's actually a training lesson.
There's levels.
It is.
Right.
It is. Yeah.
There's
we have to
levels.
encourage
Puppies
that.
initially, they can't take it. It's like, oh, I'm good. Yeah, great. We're done. Well, this is awesome. Good. But no, but that calming touch and the hugging your dog, but you're not done. We're still working.
But it's that connection, that focus piece, where the dog goes, really.
So, well,
I'm
you've been
there. I'm with you.
And
And you're
You're
not
seeing
feeding 'em.
that light bulb
It
is
just-
flickering, if not just staying on. Right?
It's a
No,
two-way
it is.
street.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah.
Wow. I'm there. Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Let's
We're
go.
there now.
Now we're gonna go. Now we're training now, and it's that little piece in there. I think we're very good at giving correction. We're not really good at putting the praise right to the animal.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially,
Timing.
I say all the time, especially women, I think, are better at praising the dogs than men, especially like you come into it, we're a good dog, right? Like maybe a pat on the head, good dog. But women, they'll get down there and they'll really, I mean, you just kind of see a dog light up a little bit better on the average woman. And
We saw that today.
I
With that
did.
little-
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That little Munsterlander, small Munsterlander. We were right. I think we were like Blaine was trying to start teaching the guy how to start the whole process, and he
Gotcha.
was putting his finger in the mouth, and the puppy was like, "What's going on?" So I just went over and I said, "Well, I kind of eliminated that process in my training. Is I just play with the gums, so I'm not invading the mouth until the puppy gets used to me playing." And the dog was like,
The dog stood up. It got positive. It was like, oh, okay, you're cool.
"Yeah,
I can get on
Yeah.
board with
Yeah,
it.
but it's that
Threatened,
energy
like,
that you're giving
right.
your dog.
Yeah.
If you're always that good dog, I mean, what does that mean to the dog?
Yeah.
Right. If you think about, and you talked about connection, it's a two-way street. You're looking at your dog and you're seeing that positive attitude, and the dog is confident and is where it needs to be. Learning's happening.
Yeah.
yeah."
You go to that 10 and the dog's just losing its mind. I love this. This is so awesome. There's no learning. The dog starts resisting learning and
But it's that
absorbing
connection when
information.
you connect it. It's a magic little connection when you give that dog praise and he focuses to you and asks you to do more.
And you're aware of it.
Yeah.
That one little connection, that first time you get it, is something you're gonna grow. You want to grow.
Yeah, yeah.
If you don't see it or you don't, I mean, it's a magic moment. It's like a light bulb pull or whatever you want to call it. But that's when the dog is, okay, I'm in the game now, right?
Yep.
And anything else, those corrections that you do after that, and the dog goes, what? Then did you hear? Oh yeah, I'm back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now you create. Well, his urge was, I need to go over and vet. No, I did the correction. It's more important me to be over here than it is to be over there. Well, what the heck is dog training? That's it's basically the whole essence of everything. If you
Yeah.
think of it the simplistic way of it.
Well, you would think it wouldn't surprise me anymore how so many people will admit and acknowledge and even spread the knowledge to people that dogs pick up on tone and body language. And if you come at them and you're all like yelling or you're hunched over, like the dogs are going to be a little taken aback. But then they don't acknowledge it on the positive side either. And it's like that. So they'll train just even keeled. Right. And I would say, until you need that reward, that is probably the best way to go about it, right? But to your point, and what we're talking about is like, I see it on Force Fetch all the time, and this is where I kind of really learned it a few years ago, kind of going through the process. It's like, the corrections land with them, but then me just patting them on the shoulder and just saying good, it didn't really do it. You have to use your tone and build it up, and they get excited and
Like,
stuff like that.
You do the down ear pinch,
Mm-hmm.
and you put the ear pinch on, and the first thing you get lockjaw.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why when you pinch their ear, their tail becomes so important. But they always do. They go away. So you pressure up a little bit on the tail, but let off that pressure when they come forward and try praise.
Yeah.
It's amazing. What do you see when you do it? The first indicator it's working is you get the nibble,
Yeah.
right? We get the nibble, Well, no, I'm going to crank it. I want to go all the way for that force right now. I think I got to never. Well, buy it.
Well, we're trying to communicate that pressure is relieved by moving forward. Forward
Right.
progression
Right.
relieves pressure.
That's
Right.
it.
And that's in the working dog space, that's in the gun dog space. You always want that dog moving forward,
You know what?
not
Sit down.
moving back.
Right.
And you know, something that we talk about, and I'm sure you've talked about 1,000 times, is go to the speed of the dog.
Right.
You know, that pressure is only there when you need it. Take your time. You got all the time in the world. Relax.
Luxury of
Slow
puppies.
down.
Yeah.
Let the dog accept its training, understand its training before it doesn't have to follow on your timeline.
Because
Then,
basically that phase of hold training is what we're talking about is that you're teaching the puppy to learn. You're teaching the puppy to accept your dominance in a puppy stage, and as soon as you do it, I'm the big food treater, totally. So, the association of me as a positive person in my dog's life is easy. But yeah, just teach the puppy how to positively move forward, like you said, and then praise and food and
success builds on
success, and repeat it. Don't make the mistake of going too fast too far, too far too fast, and because then you're gonna get in a spot that you're
We've
gonna
all
have to
done it. You
back
start
up.
training backwards.
Right, you gotta back up and start over. So end it.
Yeah. Well, circling back to group training, chapter training, the best way to get people comfortable and involved. What's the best way? And this is one of the biggest or the most common complaints, if you want to call it that, but feedback loops that I kind of enter in when I'm talking to people that I send to NAVHDA training day is all they want to talk about is the test. Do this for the test. And it's like they go to some chapters, and some chapters are fine. You go there, you do the group training, you're training a skill set. But other chapters I've been to where everything is in line of on test day, we do this. On test day, we look at that. How does a chapter or group really balance that out? Because at the end of the
Well,
day,
you have
it's
to look at come on. NAVHDA is built on hunting, conservation, and all kinds of things. We say it in many ways for the NAVHDA group, or any group actually. And it's all about hunting. You look at the naturability test. What are we looking at? Hopefully we got a point. Hopefully the dog want to track, at least have some potential for wounded game later, right? He's got to have some kind of purpose in the field to go find things and stand his point to the point where, at least then maybe I get to a shot at some point in time, right? So I think if you take and look at it, yeah, we're going to test those things. But hey, boys, by testing or by focusing at it, you're bettering your hunting dog by a lot, and it's getting you off your dead butts and doing something, right? So if you look at it from that perspective, well, what do you want in your hunting dog? Well, I like my dog to have blind manners. I want to be able to put him in the blind and at least shoot some ducks so he go get them for me. I don't want him blowing out of the blind or hauling my blind out to sea, right? You want some blind manners. And you want to be able to shoot. You want to be able for him to go out, make a decent retrieve, and get it back to me. So and do it multiple times, right?
yeah.
Well, we're going to train that, right? So I don't look at it. It's not about the test. It's about the hunt. And what the neat thing about it is if we can quantitate it, and if you really want to get serious about it, because now you've got a hunting dog and you want to do something with it later and maybe get a dog for yourself, now you can tell a story about that dog. You can show that he came with genetics in the beginning and they were trainable, right? So are we gearing them at the test? No, we're gearing you for hunting, buddy. That's how I look at it.
We do have a pre-test clinic that for those folks that are getting close to test day and they want to really focus on things. We do provide a day of focusing on testing.
As a breeder,
those hunters.
we
But all are
produce
welcome.
puppies,
Yeah.
and we ask people to test their dogs and so they're coming with that in their mind, but we honestly don't focus as much on if they express the fact that they're gonna test in October or September.
My feeling is if I do my job right,
They do fine.
they're going to do fine testing.
Right. And I think where when I hear the feedback, it's more in line of, say, we separate out. You have, teach, train, test. There's a whole bunch of different acronyms and how to break it out, but teach, train, test. Like the teaching phase and the training phase is completely different than looking at it through the lens of a judge on test day. And I think a lot of people, they go to these chapters, and let's face it, a lot of judges, it's hard to get them out of the judge, get the judge
Yeah, yeah,
glasses off.
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
put your trainer cap on. Let's get your judging glasses off. And that's where a lot of people get frustrated. It's like, I'm out here to teach my dog and train my dog, and say, they're having a young dog just trying to establish point. Well, then the dog finally points it, and then the judge that's helping them, all of a sudden it turns into a steadiness thing, right? Well, on test, that's great, that's a point, but on test day now we got to get to steadiness through the fall, and it's like, we just established point. We're not talking steadiness yet. Can we take a minute to
Yeah.
revel in the fact that that dog just pointed, and let's leave steadiness for the next lesson, right? Like, that's the challenge
And
and
I
what I
think
hear
that's
back.
the responsibility of the trainer in the field is to read that handler. Is he focused on a testing situation, or is he just training his hunting dog? And you know, you give him a few more tidbits if he's going to run in a test as far as what he can do as a handler. But basically, I mean, you're producing a dog that points, and hopefully is going to stand there to the shot and be a safe dog in the hunting woods when in September and October.
My feelings, like, if I let's say I'm like you said with a natural ability dog, I don't care if you're talking all the way in there or whatever. But at some point, if it gets to that hacking point, that hacking moment, I think a good trainer would say, "Don't you think he's heard something?"
I mean,
Right?
Is
it's
his
in
ears
your
broken?
camp, right?
Yeah.
Right? No, because I like to say, if you don't say anything unless you got something to say. I think it's a good training rule.
Yeah.
And the second thing is, if you're talking that much to an animal, you are just a bunch of gibberish that's just continuous. How do they know what the difference of when you want something and when you don't want something? You know, those are the important facts.
And you made up a good point there where you're identifying, hey, look, that dog pointed solid. That was a hard point on that bird. You know, identifying where the dogs are successful, because they
Positives.
may have like, oh, my dog did terrible. And how often do we get like, oh,
We
my
gotta
dog did
win.
horrible out here?
Yep.
You know, because it's not stay to wing
He
and
got a
shot.
message from the trainer that it wasn't good. He didn't know.
Your
Right.
dog 10-month old.
Yeah.
You know, your dog did fantastic in that moment and held all the way halfway through your stays. You're
Right.
well on your way.
Right.
You know, and often by us identifying that, you know what, you're actually ahead of the game. You're doing good.
Well, how
You know,
about
and
the
still
dog?
some confidence in
How
that
about
training.
how about the dog? Has your dog ever seen some birds? So you pull the wing feathers on, throw a bird down on the ground. The dog runs up to it and goes over and looks at the dog over here on the other side. He could care less about the darn thing.
Yep.
Well, no, well, that is a heartbreak. I mean, the first time a hunting dog sees a bird and won't want to go to the bird, the first thing the handler says is, "Whoa, what have I got for a dog? I'm in the way." And then all of a sudden we stimulate a little chase in the game, or take it away from him, or so let him see that bird go off and let.
You got to build that hunt in the dog first. That is the
That little
biggest
puppy,
thing. I
that
tell
little
everybody
puppy.
so much, like, they're, well, what's the first step? Plant a bird and point. I'm like, you have to have a dog that wants to hunt first. If that requires
If you don't
catch
want game,
if you got to get a chase, that dog has to want that bird, and that's why it's like, I think one of the worst things that has come in the bird dog space is people saying never let your dog catch a bird. I'm sorry, a young puppy. Sometimes the best thing for that puppy
oh,
is to
100%.
catch and dominate that bird. I'm not saying that's for every puppy. There's some dogs that just come out of the box that is like, all right, you got enough drive. You do not need a bird, because that's just that's just crack to that dog, right? But some dogs, they're trepidatious.
and it's a
they
good point, because if the dog hasn't got enough drive, right? How can you press it for good pointing? You can't do it. You gotta get it. They gotta have game. They gotta get gamey. If they aren't gamey, you're not gonna force a point. You're gonna force a blinker.
And so if you're that new handler and you're going out there, and I don't care if it's your dog's first time out there and it actually established a point, if you have somebody in the field out there with you, grabbing your dog by the collar, yanking it back, or there's a check cord yanking it back, you need to advocate for your dog and say, get your hands off my dog. Because I'm sorry, this whole never let your dog catch a bird anymore, I don't care about steadiness.
Can't steal the drive.
You can't steal the drive, especially right out of the gate like that. That is more detrimental than a dog that catches a bird. And
the only thing we have is drive.
Right.
You start pulling from that resource, what do you have left?
Yeah.
You get a pet.
Yep. And
You got a friendly dog.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of our clinics, we have a big pole in the middle of the field with a long string and a live chucker on it. So the young dogs who've never had any bird exposure, are given that opportunity all day long for that bird.
the pigeon pole.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
classic. There's a time
Yep.
and how there's not many places you even go
Because
see
you want
that
forward
anymore.
drive.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's unfortunate, but I'm the sounding board, so I probably hear these examples a lot more just from people like, y'all said go to NAVHDA, and that, this is what happened. And it's like, look, not all chapters are created equal, but you also can't just go in there and take at face value what everybody's there to say. It's good intention, they mean well, but you need to at least have some sort of knowledge going
Exactly.
into it and be able to advocate for that dog.
And that's where going back to that guy that just introduced himself and found out where he was. I mean, he's asking questions. Has your dog ever seen a bird?
Yeah.
Well, where are you? Have you done anything with your dog? Where'd you get your dog? Who's your dog from? Where's in generating this idea? Well, geez, we got some of your puppies here. There's some of your puppy people sitting over there. So there's a lot of for the trainers that are about to walk into these situations and not. They got to ask questions.
Well, they won't know. I mean, they're intimidated by the process and the
You know,
environment.
It's
They're
a
going to
whole
go
lot
in
of
there.
new.
They're going to be kind of caught off guard. So you know what? Forget about your dog. Just come here and show up for the day. Walk around with a bunch of different people and just love what you're doing and pick up what you can and then bring your dog because now you know what you're walking into. And a lot of times they just
Exactly.
get overwhelmed, and I know we do it. We throw a lot of information at them all at once, and it's you look at it in their eyes, and it's going in one ear out the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
who was it that says to me, he says, you need to stop talking. He told me, you need to stop talking. I go, okay. I get it. I just melted him.
Too much information.
Way too much over fry.
Yeah.
Well, Jason, I'm going to ask you this. I've been doing this for a few weeks now, but wrapping everything up, I like to ask everybody, what's something that we should have discussed in this roundtable that we didn't?
That's a good question. Well, I mean, we have a lot of things going at the kennel right now. We have a training. We've connected. I know I'm writing for Project Upland currently.
Yeah.
And we've connected to a lot of their writing, and we're starting a video series with them.
Nice.
This fall, we have a book coming out.
You have a book, yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's it's us. That book is our
Yeah.
legacy.
Yeah.
Everything I've learned from you and picked up in the Yankee
Yep.
Chapter. So it's a pretty neat book, in that it's about reading dogs. There's so much information out there on methods, and there's so many different methods. People get kind of caught up in all that information, and people are, which is great, is people listening to this podcast and listening to all these resources. They're coming to the field with an idea. They're not.
Good.
A lot of these folks aren't blank slates when they walk in. They know the information, but the missing pieces, they can't apply that info because they're not reading what their dog is telling them.
Right.
There's not. He talked about it earlier, that connection. So this book is all about the art of reading dogs.
I look forward to that. I'm going to
Yeah,
need to
sure.
I need a copy of that.
Absolutely.
You
You'll
let me
get it.
know, and then we'll circle back and we'll do an episode on that. But what you just did there, and this is why I referred to y'all at the start as you guys are amongst my favorite people in the bird dog space. Is y'all are a collective. Y'all are a core. You hear there's all kinds of institutions in the especially NAVHDA world, that you will, but the Carters are the Carters. It's not Blaine, Jason, or Pattie.
100%.
It's all of y'all. And what you just said is like, it may have your name on the book or you wrote it, but you recognize that came from them. And it goes back full circle to what we talked about here, is leaving that impression to you plant the seeds so that it grows within somebody else, and then they go pass it on to somebody else. And that is how you grow a community, not by lecturing or preaching to everybody nonstop, is literally leading by example. And that's why I point everybody to y'all, because I think y'all exude that example. Y'all live the example. And so for everybody that y'all have made
Thank you, Nick.
impressions on, and the handlers clinic. I talked about that that you led years ago. Thank you, for all that y'all have done and continue to do. And I look forward to the next time we get to link up.
I know.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All good.
All right. Thanks, guys.